town meeting. Can I emphasise this is not a council meeting. This is an annual town meeting of owners. It is being live streamed, and if you're sat in a place that you're not too keen about coming onto picture, now's an opportunity to just move chair. But otherwise, welcome. We're talking about things later, but you'll see various stalls and displays around, and I'll go through those later on. We now move on to apologies for absence.
We've had apologies from Councillor Mr Haynes, Councillor Mrs Haynes and Councillor Smith.
Okay, the councillors will have seen, and no doubt you'll have seen online, the minutes from the last meeting, which was chaired by Councillor Robbie Raphael, and I ask him to just say a few words.
Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move this as a true and accurate record of the meeting which took place on the 22nd of April.
Thank you. I'm seconding that motion. Are there any comments from councillors about the minutes that you have had circulated? I don't see anything. Therefore, can I ask those in favour? Is anybody against? Are there any abstentions? Okay, thank you. We now move on to the annual report by myself. Good evening, everyone, and I welcome you to the annual meeting of parishioners. This annual meeting is held every year to allow community residents the opportunity to ask questions of Evesham Town Council. Questions from the public are identified as the final agenda item on this agenda today. So I would ask you any personal questions or public questions to hold them until then. We will do our utmost to offer you a response this evening, but if further information is required, then your question will be passed to the appropriate authority for a full response, and you will receive the reply in writing. Ideally, questions should be forwarded to the town clerk ahead of this or any other meeting, so giving time to formulate a response with an informative response to the individual. I intend to recommend this practice be adopted for future meetings, both full council and the annual meeting, but that will be a matter for future discussion between myself, whilst I'm still in office, and the town clerk, and discussion with the mayor-elect. To remind you, Evesham Town Council is your parish-level council. We are responsible for allotments, cemeteries, the Almonry Museum, which, as you know, is currently undergoing extensive restoration work, as a result of the superb, dedicated administration by Ashley James, the manager and curator. Further, the Town Council is consulted on planning and licensing matters, with the overriding decisions on such matters resting with Wychavon District Council as the principal authority. Likewise, Worcestershire County Council is the lead authority for highways, schools and adult social care. While we're always willing to apply pressure and advocate for Evesham, we do not hold decisions. We do not hold decision-making powers, my apologies, in these areas. As always, it is a pleasure to be with you tonight, and thank you for taking the time to attend. Also, my thanks to the exhibitors at the back for being here tonight, and you are welcome to mix with them after this meeting and discuss with them the activities that they are engaged with. And again, I said it once, I'll say it again, my thanks to the exhibitors for coming tonight. To have been appointed as your mayor for the past year is not a right. It is and has been a privilege. As such, the Mayoress, Councillor Marion Griffiths, and I have witnessed the incredible work carried out by individuals and organisations throughout Evesham and their dedicated commitment as they continue to contribute to show how much people in this town care. Evesham is built on community spirit, and this will be demonstrated as various reports are received. Over the past year, Marion and I have attended, by invitation, over 120 events. Not as many as some of my predecessors, but as many of you know, I've been incapacitated for the past 6 weeks following surgery. During these past 6 weeks, my responsibilities and duties have been superbly covered by your Deputy Mayor, Bill Kimberley, and his consort, Celia Kimberley. My sincere thanks to you both. Places visited include schools, youth groups, churches, businesses, care homes, charities, and community organisations. Visiting these places further demonstrates the true heart of Evesham. Therein lays the true spirit of Evesham. We have also attended functions organised by other mayors within their areas and shared ideas, etc., for promoting activities that we can bring back to the town and I can share with other councillors and especially Mayor-elect Bill Kimberley, who will be taking over my duties as from the 11th of May. At this point, I must give a tremendous thank you to the incredible volunteers, without whose commitment many of our organisations would struggle to support the community in the way they do. The energy and time you dedicate makes an enormous difference to our community. The Town Council continues to challenge and apply pressures when needed to other bodies when it considered Evesham as being let down or ignored. This includes pressing Worcestershire County Council with reference to traffic congestion, potholes. These are far too many, as we all know, that despite residents reporting them to us, a lot of them still go unfilled. But I can promise you, highways are being kept very much in touch with the needs. And if you have problems with your vehicles damaged, Worcestershire Highways is the place for you to go to complain. What an incredible delight it is to report that the Riverside Centre has been bought by Wychavon District Council, with huge assistance from Homes England. Exhibited boards down the side there show what could be achieved. They are not pictures of what is proposed. They are an organisation that give ideas of how it could be developed, and the development is still very much in the hands of Wychavon. Exhibited boards, as I said, are shown as to what could be achieved, and Evesham residents still have a great contribution to make, especially before the proposed unitary authority takes control on the 1st of April 2028. You were talking about that. You will see on the other side that there are boards where you're invited to complete post-it notes with your thoughts, your ideas. They're anonymous. There's pens, paper there. Make your ideas known so that we know what you as a community would like the council to put forward to Wychavon as ideas of interest, bearing in mind, of course, that Wychavon as a district council ceases, as does Worcestershire County Council. So although you won't be paying their council tax, anything that Evesham Town Council takes on board, like parks, toilets, what you want the council to take on will still have to be paid for. So bear that in mind, please. Every month, except August and December, a full council meeting is held, usually with a very extensive agenda. Attendances by elected councillors has varied considerably, and I remind councillors that attending meetings is a part of your responsibility to the electorate. Specific committee meetings are held periodically throughout the year, and you will be hearing reports accordingly. I've already touched on the Almonry Museum, but it would be amiss of me not to again give my undivided congratulations to Ashley for her belief and dedication to ensuring that the Almonry Museum could and should be restored. And following the successful application for funding in excess of £2 million, restoration work is now underway. Congratulations, Ashley. Finally, I had the privilege during my term of being asked by the Lord Lieutenant of Worcestershire, Mrs. Beatrice Grant, Worcestershire's representative of His Majesty King Charles III, to organise a visit to Evesham. This was completed with praise from the Lord Lieutenant, who had an informative visit. Similarly, the High Sheriff of Worcestershire, Ian Smith, Worcestershire's representative of, His Majesty King Charles III for the judiciary, also requested to visit Evesham, and again the High Sheriff complimented Evesham for the high level of support given to the community through the charities, organisations and businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. We come on now to the reports from committee chairmen. The microphone's going to now hand to Councillor Peter Scurfield, the chairman of Planning
and Estates.
Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Planning and Estates Committee has two main functions. Firstly, it scrutinises planning applications for proposed developments in Evesham and formulates our recommendations to the District Council's Planning Department, sometimes as delegated decisions or as advisories. Secondly, it oversees the management of the Town Council's property, including cemeteries, allotments, the Town Hall and the Almonry Museum, War Memorial, as well as the more mundane parts of the town, such as notice boards and bus shelters. As a statutory consultee in the planning process, Town Council's voice is an important one. Although we do not have the final say on any application, the District Council is obliged to consult us and take our views into account. Over the course of this year, in our 14 meetings, we've responded to 97 applications, an increase of 20 from last year, planning applications, ranging from a garden shed to major new housing developments. Some of these are more contentious than others, but we must make our recommendations based on what we believe is the best for Evesham, as well as being in line with the aspirations of the town plan. Town Council owns a number of properties, including the Grade 1 listed Almonry and the Grade 2 listed Town Hall. Maintaining these as a facility for the town and preserving them for future generations is a key aspect of the Planning and Estates Committee's responsibilities. The importance of the Almonry and Evesham's structural heritage cannot be overstated. Along with the bell tower, it's one of the jewels in the crown of the Abbey precincts. This building has needed significant restoration and repair work, and thankfully this work is progressing significantly, and the prospect of being restored to its full splendour is much closer. Other historic buildings owned by the Town Council include the War Memorial in Abbey Park and the remains of Old St Peter's Church in Church Street, Bengeworth. The War Memorial has further work being planned to repair the structure. During the course of this year, we have revised the allocation of allotments, substantially reducing the waiting list, and hopefully things will be moving forward from there. Town Hall is now in the hands of Wychavon, with the understanding that Evesham Town Council will soon be receiving it back from their ownership, although we have not got a date yet. And we've been preparing for this by authorising a schedule of works needed to give us a roadmap to restoring it to a weatherproof and watertight condition, giving costings and the order of work and surveys needed. We've replaced the fire alarm system and the emergency lights, bringing both up to current standards, purchased and installed an evacuation chair, which is at the back of the hall, which now conforms with health and safety standards, and we've got a working group to complete weekly inspections. And the first improvement of the structure has been the refurbishment of the front door that you came through. An assessment of the walls around the cemetery has been completed, and necessary remedial work at the car park and adjacent walls has been approved, with all of the relevant work starting in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And the trees that caused the initial damage to the wall have also been removed after consultation to ensure no further subsidence damage. Our focus on improving the street furniture will continue to enhance our town, and in partnership with Place Board, we're looking at revamping and improving the signposts around the town to enable visitors to navigate more easily. And the leaking underground supply into Hampton Cemetery has finally been identified and repaired. Planning and Estates Committee would be nothing without the hard work of the officers and staff who look after our property and support the committee in the council office. I would particularly like to thank Joe, Kerry, Sarah, and in the office, Almonry manager Ashley and her team, who have done a fantastic job of making the Almonry such a welcoming place and are still doing so, although it's across the road and it's a little bit smaller. The Outdoor Services Manager, Richard Osborne, can't be faulted. His support for all of the ongoing work outdoors is superb. And his team can be seen out there in all weathers, keeping the grass trimmed, cutting back the undergrowth. And finally, I'd like to thank my fellow committee members for their contributions over the year. The hours spent looking at planning applications, going out on site visits, are all time consuming, but they're vital and help us make the necessary decisions in a very professional manner, and their input is always both welcome and valuable. Thank you.
Move on now to the Town Plan Committee and Councillor Robert Hale, who is the chairman.
Yes, I'd like to report the Town Plan Committee for the year. We've supported the Walkers of Welcome initiative, led by but separate from local ramblers. Last year's Week of Walks was very successful, finished with a multi-day walk from Kenilworth to Evesham, finishing on the first day of the Battle of Evesham. The committee supported the Place Board's plans to decorate the underside of the Abbey Bridge, updating the town map, signage and lighting projects in the Abbey Park and churchyards. On behalf of the committee, Councillors Julie Tucker and Anne Lyon attended the Vale Bus and Rail meetings with support for the new on-demand buses and improving bus services generally. Councillors Raphael and Tucker have tried to progress the idea of a permanent youth council. Progress is being made with help from funding from national networks and subsequent planting of plugs, etc., and some plum trees. You will notice the new hedge planting next to the road in the Waterside Cemetery, where unfortunately the dry weather caused a few losses. Thanks to Campbell Muir and his team for painting the many bollards in the town. We've written to Severn Trent concerning sewage discharges, even in last year's dry weather, receiving a reply, but that issue has really been investigated by Wychavon's Overview and Scrutiny Committee, who are to produce a plan yet to appear. It was agreed to further fund the Avonvale River Action Group for the ammonia kits for river water monitoring. Following anecdotal reports that the traffic flows better during the mop, we asked Worcestershire County Council to survey the traffic levels before, during and after the mop. They did so, but not quite for the period we'd hoped, and any data will be confounded by the high level of roadworks at that time, together with nearby works outside the town boundary. We have the results, but have yet to hear from the county as to their analysis. Councillor Matthew Jones has done an assessment, and I await to hear from him on that. Dog fouling is a perennial and unfortunately increasing issue. We've purchased some signs to try and indicate displeasure, following evidence from other organisations that they had a considerable reduction in dog mess. We haven't done any analysis yet. We continue to support the Laura Van Toller and her team, leader of Evesham's anti-litter group, and her Herculean task, it's like his stables, I think, to rid the town of detritus, wildly abandoned by what must be a large, very irresponsible minority of the population, given the sheer volume found. Laura also leads the Evesham part of the Great British Spring Clean, to which we are greatly indebted, and for all the work she puts in. Really, a round of applause, please. We continue to assess whether we are moving to completing the aim in publishing, cut the aims in the published town plan itself. We must thank the civil society's chair, Jill Pawson, who's a co-opted member of the committee, for keeping us on target. She's currently in Europe, seeing how they do it there. I attend the Worcestershire Active Travel Forum, organised by the County Council, and the Wychavon Games annual meeting. Please put your name forward to participate in one of the several games. It's organised by ward, which makes it a bit difficult for Evesham, where there are 8 wards which do not have the identity of a normal parish. We continue to consider a neighbourhood plan. Currently, we are progressing the idea of a plan for just a small area where we may be able to have a bit of an impact. If we are to proceed, we have to decide very soon. And to finish, there's the question of how the council and the town handled the evolution. And I'll leave that with you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We move on now to the personnel report and a short statement from Councillor Mark Googe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Personnel Committee, as the name suggests, primarily deals with staffing matters, including recruitment, salaries, working conditions, and, if necessary, disciplinary matters. It also has a role in responding to complaints about the council as an appeal route if the complainant is unsatisfied with the first level response. The Personnel Committee doesn't have a regular schedule of meetings. Instead, it meets on an ad hoc basis if and when there are matters that require a decision. It's met 4 times in the past civic year. All of those meetings have related to core staffing matters such as new recruits, staff departures, contracts and salaries. There have been no disciplinary hearings and no complaint hearings in the past year. There's obviously not a lot I can go into about personnel since, by its very nature, a large amount of what we discuss is confidential, but I would like to thank the other members of the committee for their input into that. Because so much of it is confidential, it's not something you can go and chat about down the pub, so I do want to thank my fellow committee members for their ability to not talk about things that they shouldn't be talking about and knowing when to keep them a secret. And thank the staff involved for all the work they've done. It has been a generally productive year, so thank you for that.
The final report being presented to you this evening is the finance report by Councillor Bill Kimberley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee is really quite an important job for the Council to do and is always under quite a lot of scrutiny. The Town Council currently sits as the first tier of local government with Wychavon District Council and Worcestershire County Council above as principal authorities. The Town Council operates as a distinct legal entity. Unlike the principal authorities, our primary source of funding is the precept, which is just a portion of the council tax collected from households in our town. We primarily rely on the precept, supplemented by fees for hire of the town hall, allotments, cemetery fees, and occasionally grant funding, which is most often provided for specific ring-fence purposes. Every year, the council sets a balanced budget. We estimate the costs required to maintain our services, our assets, and staffing, and then determine the precept necessary to cover those costs. In the 2026-27 financial climate, the town faces some very strong headwinds. We have ongoing infrastructure costs as owners of the Almonry, Cemetery Chapel, and we will have the Town Hall to think of too. We are delighted to have received grants to assist with the repair of the Almonry, and you will hear more about this from Ashley, the manager there. The council is keen to get its assets in a better place and maintain an ongoing programme of maintenance going forward to avoid the financial shocks that we find ourselves in at present. A lot of the repairs to the town hall are not exactly down to the town, but we are going to put them right. It has not been our responsibility for many years, and we're taking it on, and we're going to make this town hall a much better building through our endeavour. You will also have heard that the local government reorganisation will make changes to the arrangements of principal councils, that's the district and the council, joining them together to make either one or two larger councils in Worcestershire. My colleague Councillor Tucker, will explain and elaborate more on this in a moment. Our financial decisions are made in public meetings. Residents are welcome to attend these meetings, review the agendas and participate during the public question section to ask about where the money is going and why. The agendas for all our council committee meetings are posted on the notice board at the town hall and on our website. Approved lists of our expenditures are uploaded onto the council's website. The council undergoes 3 audits a year, 2 internal audits and 1 external audit. For the external audit, the auditor is appointed by an organisation directed by the Department for Committees and Local Governments. We have an excellent committee with our experienced councillors always leading the way, and I'd like to thank them for their support this year. The council operates under a robust set of standing orders and financial regulations. These are our rule books, ensuring that no single individual can unilaterally spend money without the proper checks, balances and council approval. And I would like to thank our town clerk and her office staff for scrutinising all our expenditure and keeping a very close eye on our council budget. Thank you very much. The town council's primary responsibility is to manage the public money entrusted to us with diligence and transparency. And that is what we will endeavour to continue to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the various committee chairmen for their reports. We move on now to item 6, reports from speakers. We start with an update regarding this building, the Town Hall, which were given by Councillor Peter Schofield.
Thank you. As was mentioned very briefly in my report and with Bill's as well, we are hopefully going to be taking charge of it, but we don't know when yet. As soon as we do have it returned to council ownership, we will need to make the building watertight. It's not at the moment, as you can see by the damage at the back of the hall and other damage in the mayor's parlour. This is going to be a significant sum. It is going to be mainly the external work, but it is fully budgeted. We have the money for it. Once it's watertight, the pressure's off to a certain extent. At that point, we'll be continuing a series of grant applications to Historic England, who's going to be the first one, hopefully, to give us some money towards the clock tower, which would be quite nice. And then the scheme of works, which has been roughly drawn up, we're looking at about 5 to 10 years of work, at the end of which, hopefully, we should have a town hall that will show how nice Evesham is. In terms of costings, the first amount of money, which will be going towards sorting out all the windows and the other means of ingress for water, is going to be round about 80 to £100,000. So they're not small amounts of money. As I said, we do have this in the budget, and that's what we'll be spending it on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm now going to pass the microphone over to Ashley, who will give you an update on the Almonry project as it is at this moment. Ashley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councillors. Good evening. I just want to give you a brief update on the Almonry. Anybody who has attended any of my talks will know that I can talk for hours about that building, so I will try and keep it brief. You can't have failed to notice the scaffolding. It is huge. I knew it was going to be huge. It's even taken me by surprise, to be honest. What I can report is, hopefully you've seen DA Cooks have been appointed as the main contractor. Cooks have a long history of working in Evesham and on some of our most iconic areas. They've most recently completed the Abbey Trust garden project in the parks. So they did an excellent job with repairing their walls there. They've done a lot of work in Evesham and they're a very trusted partner. We're very pleased and very proud to have them on board with this amazing project. Cooks have prepared the site to start, and as you can see, the scaffolding is going up. The scaffolding should be completed by the end of this month. There will be a tin lid across the whole of the building, and the whole building will be sheeted and covered like the NatWest. We can't afford to do a fancy scaffold wrap, unfortunately, but we are talking to Wychavon about the potential of putting some decorative fence covers over the Heras fencing. We're still just sort of negotiating things around that at the moment. Internally, whilst you can't see what's happening, there is work happening. So at the moment, the electrics are all being stripped out. It's called a soft stripping, apparently. So the electrics are coming out to be replaced with new ones. Part of the project is to replace all our heating and lighting. Anybody who's been to the Almonry knows it was quite dark. So we're going to have new heating in there. It's going to be energy efficient heating, energy efficient lighting, as well as better lighting so we can care for our objects better. With the heating, we are hoping to have an air source heat pump with some complementary electric heaters. Again, we're looking at energy efficiency, but also coupling that with care for the building and collections care as well. And we're working with the conservator to make sure that we meet the needs of the building and the collection. That's kind of it in terms of the building. At the moment, everything is on time, it's on budget, and it's all looking good. The plan is to finish the building work by March next year. The scale of the work is huge. We're going to be replacing the roof, fixing the timber frame, replacing the plaster panels, replacing all the rainwater goods, new heating, new lighting, new toilets, new paths out in the back garden. And also we're going to be repairing the doors and windows to make them weathertight. So it is a huge project, and we couldn't have done this without the grant from Arts Council England of 2.175 million. Huge thank you to the Town Council for agreeing to the 10% match fund for that. And now we've also got the National Lottery Heritage Fund Development Phase grant, so that's 393,000. Again, thank you to the Town Council for agreeing to match fund part of that. And also thank you to everybody who's donated to us, because we've been able to put £20,000 worth of donations towards that project, which is absolutely amazing. So thank you for that. What this project has done and it's kind of surprised us, is we've discovered some new things. So you work in a building for 10 years and you've explored every nook and cranny of it, but it still has the opportunity to surprise you. And we have discovered some late 16th century wall paintings. These were discovered by removing some cases that have been in situ for decades. The first thing we found actually was a small cast iron Victorian fireplace, which was very cute, and we all went, oh, isn't that nice? And then we discovered these wall paintings. This is hugely significant. This potentially points it to being a very high status building. We're already aware of painted timbers in the main hall, but what we've actually also discovered is further decoration on that. We've discovered some painted timber downstairs in what was the Abbey room. We've got several locations for these wall paintings, and we think we might have also found a staircase, which again is completely thrown us because we're now trying to figure out where this staircase went and what it was used for. In terms of the wall paintings, we have been working with a conservator. She is a specialist in wall paintings, does a lot of work with Harvington Hall at Kidderminster. If any of you are aware, they have spectacular wall paintings. So she's very, very experienced, very knowledgeable. We'll be working with her, with other experts, with conservation officers at Wychavon and with Historic England to make sure that the decisions we make about uncovering, caring for and displaying these wall paintings is done in the right way, and hopefully we'll have more news with that as it develops, but it's an ongoing project. That's it really. I just wanted to be really kind of very brief with you. As with all these things, yes, we've had some money, but we're always on the lookout for more. So without going around with a begging bowl, I would like to encourage you, please, to join the Friends of the Almonry Museum. This is an independent group. I don't have anything to do with them. They're a friendship group. They're a support group. That sounds quite wrong, doesn't it, support group? But they support the Almonry. They're very interested in heritage techniques, heritage building skills. So, they've done slate making days and what have you. If you came to our stand at the Battle of Evesham last year, you'll have seen lime plastering, lime pointing, how to lay a slate roof. So it's only £10 for a year, so please do that. Or you could sponsor a slate. We can't do it in the traditional way where we carve your name on the back of it because you can't do that with Cotswold stone. But what we are creating is a book of honour, a roll of honour. So if you sponsor a slate for just £10, you have your name, you can dedicate your slate to somebody, and that will be put on the list, and we will get that book printed when we're finished. So far, I'm really pleased to say we've raised almost £1,700 just through Sponsor a Slate. So thank you to everybody who has done that. You can do these things either in our new shop, which is on Merstow Green, conveniently located between the chip shop and the pub. We're open 6 days a week. You can come in and sponsor a slate or get your friendship membership there, or you can do it online via our website. We've got a secure website and you can do that. I will be around for the rest of the evening if anybody's got any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley, for that update. Very, very interesting, informative. And I think it's an example of what dedication and commitment actually goes to show when years and years ago people seem to have a mindset of, oh, well, let's just pull the whole thing down and build houses or whatever. And when you've got a building that dates back as much as it does, this sort of restoration work had to be done. And it's all through Ashley's dedication. So, Ashley, I said it once, I'll say it again. Thank you. We'll move on to the next speaker, who is my colleague, Councillor Julie Tucker, who will talk to you about local government reorganisation. Now, the sun is still out there. I appreciate it doesn't go dark till about 8 o'clock. And I know Julie will keep this as brief as possible. But she could still be talking at midnight and you'd still be learning something new. It's that deep and that involved. So, Julie, all the best.
Thank you. I think that's a bit of an introduction, isn't it? Good evening, everyone. I've ended up with what seems to be quite a boring subject, I'm afraid. However, it is also a vital subject. It may not seem so, but it does make a huge difference to how we receive all of our services. And it won't be very long coming either. So in December 2024, just before Christmas, only a few days before Christmas, all councils, that is principal councils, that's Wychavon and County Council, were notified by the government that there were going to be changes, and any authority that wasn't already a unitary was going to have to change and become a unitary. And it's interesting that the previous changes that had happened in 1974 took 10 years to plan by government. This was sprung on us, and we were told that it had to happen by the latest in 2028. So that's given us 4 years. Some councils in other parts of the country have had to do it by 2027. So I suppose we are benefiting to some extent. So a unitary, that means that Worcestershire County Council and Wychavon County Council and all other district councils in Worcestershire will disappear. And they will disappear on the 31st of March 2028 if everything runs to the timetable that. So on April the 1st, 2028, a new unitary authority will be open for business. Now, when the decision was made by the government, they asked all of the principal authorities to say what they wanted to happen in their area. And towards the end of last year, proposals were put in by all of the district councils and Worcestershire County Council. And there were 2 proposals put forward. One was from Worcestershire County Council and Wyre Forest, and they wanted 1, so that would cover the whole of Worcestershire. The other 5 districts, including Wychavon, wanted to see 2, and that would be a north and a south. So south would be covering Wychavon, Malvern District Council and Worcester City. So that would become 1 unitary if the government goes for 2 unitaries. The reason there were different, I think the biggest reason that 2 were proposed by a lot of the districts was because there was a large consultation with local people called Shape Worcestershire, and overwhelmingly from that consultation local residents said that they wanted to see 2. And some of the reasons they put forward were that they didn't like the idea of the unitary being so far away, so separate, and they also were concerned about the impact on services that we receive. So that's why the districts went for 2. So anyway, the government has now received 2 proposals. We won't know until probably July. We might be lucky and here in June, but it's more likely to be July, whether that it will be 2 unitaries or 1. So we're still waiting to find that out. The other thing is, and this is going to be something on top of the unitaries, there is also proposed by the government that we have strategic authorities, and that will include several unitaries. So, for example, it might include the whole of Worcestershire, Herefordshire, and Gloucestershire, or Worcestershire, Herefordshire and Warwickshire. We just don't know. We've been asked what our ideas are, but that's as far as it's got. But that's going to be a bit of a way off. That won't happen I can't imagine, for a couple of years until after the unitary is established. And there will also be a mayor, rather like they have in Manchester or Birmingham. So, what will be the impact on the town and on the town council? Well, obviously we don't know yet properly, but we have got examples of what has happened with unitaries that are already set up. So Cornwall is a unitary, Somerset and others. And some of the town councillors have been looking at what has happened elsewhere. And the pattern tends to be that the unitaries want to get rid of some of the services or assets held for specific areas. And one of the first ones that goes seems to be public toilets, for example. So what has happened in these areas that have already got unitaries is that town councils in particular have ended up picking those assets up to make sure that their town has still got them. Now, this has already been mentioned once, but I'll mention it again. Over on the side over there, there are some boards with some examples of some of the assets that we have in Evesham. And we would love to know what things that you consider to be the most important things that you would like to make sure that we do not lose. That could be a very long list, I know. But at least we will have some idea. Doesn't mean to say we're going to jump straight away, but we do need to know from you what is the most important. So please do take a few minutes after the meeting and put a post-it up on whichever things you think are the most important things, please. That would really help us. And happy to answer any questions later on. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the reports from relevant speakers. And, I beg your pardon. I was getting ahead of myself, I already ticked off the last one. Is under the heading of the new cemeteries, and I hand over again to the Peter Scurfield show for his latest report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say, it's working. There are two sets of post-it note places there, and there's one on that side as well, just in case you missed that. Thank you. So, some background. Evesham Town Council administers 3 municipal cemeteries, these being Hampton, Bengeworth and Waterside. At the time of writing, there have been 17,362 burials across all of the Town Council cemeteries. The council also maintains the close cemeteries of Bengeworth Close Cemetery at Church Street, All Saints Churchyard, and the closed section of Hampton Cemetery, which is the area directly around Hampton Church. Bengeworth and Hampton are full and are used for burial only into graves where the first interment has already taken place. This is known as a reopen, usually to bury a spouse into the grave occupied already by their partner. Bengeworth Cemetery is also used for the interment of cremated remains. Waterside is the only cemetery with space available for new, full burials, and it's very short of space. All sections are full, and the staff now allocate burials in areas of the cemetery previously set aside for other purposes, such as less used paths, and in the buffer strip at the front of the cemetery. Cemetery staff estimate that in 1 to 1.5 years, Waterside will have run out of space for new burials. The council has been aware for some time that there's a pressing need for burial space, but opportunities to acquire land have been scarce. In previous years, the council sought to use the Hampton playing field And this was investigated over a number of years, but the Environment Agency objected to the submitted application due to risks to groundwater, and the challenges of the site became insurmountable. So recent work, last couple of years, search for land has intensified and efforts were made to seek suitable land in or close to the parish. 2 calls for sites were made on social media and a poster campaign. Known landowners were contacted. Land registry maps were studied and potential land investigated. Engagement with local land agents was made. Officers followed up on leads suggested. Inquiries were made to the larger councils. This is not a new situation. In 1872-3, the hunt was on for land for a new cemetery. Some 8 or 9 sites were looked at and offers were made and rejected, with the final one at Greenhill, which was just outside the town, interestingly. But the princely sum of £3.9 million at comparison GDP was felt to be a bit too much. There are roughly 30,000 people in the Evesham area. And of that number, about 20%, according to both Worcester data and the ONS, favour burial. This percentage has not changed in the last 5 years. So that's roughly 6,000 people in this town. In the last 4 full years of data, over 240 people have been buried in Evesham. Town clerk has researched every piece of land she's been made aware of in the last 3 years. And we believed we had found a suitable site. We made an offer, or we were in the process of making an offer and then doing due diligence, but it then became not financially viable due to government regulations. So we have reluctantly issued notices on Rhinal Place allotments. This is to fulfill their legal rights to have a full year of notice outside of the growing period. During this 1 year period, we'll continue to look at alternatives if and when we find them. And when and if any are feasible, we will act accordingly. We have identified land which is suitable for transfer of the allotment holders, which is part of their contract, but this is not suitable for burial ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we now come to item 7, which is items and questions from members of the public. Now, before I open it up to the floor, I just want to read you a statement, please. I am denied whether or not I should put this with my annual report, but decided as it's almost a standalone, I would do it independently prior to questions coming from yourself. Before I read it, can I just say that you're welcome to ask questions. That's what we're here for. I would ask you, if you wish to ask a question, to raise your hand, and then we will identify you. If I miss anybody by moving on, because I don't know everybody by name, just put your hand up again and you will be identified. But please, we don't want you to leave here this evening, without having been able to raise your question. If an answer can be given to your question, then obviously it will be given by any member here in front of you. If we can't, because it requires a little bit of research, investigation, or whatever, it will be noted and you will be given a written reply in a short period of time once it has been investigated. Okay. I want to mention the recent headline that appeared in the Evesham Observer. It's understandable that people will have seen the clip and have questions. What happened at the last council meeting was regrettable. Councillors are human, and from time to time, disagreements can become more heated than they should. That said, it's important to keep this in perspective. The vast majority of council work is carried out professionally, respectfully, and collaboratively across all members. This incident, especially when taken out of the context of the many hours of constructive discussion that happen regularly, doesn't reflect how this council operates day to day. Councillors, regardless of their views or political differences, work hard to represent residents and get things done for the community. It's also worth remembering that council meetings are places where strong opinions are expressed. That's part of healthy democracy. But they should always be conducted with respect. Where standards fall short, that should be acknowledged and learned from. If anyone has concerns, we're always open to constructive discussion. But it's important not to let one moment overshadow the broader work being done on behalf of the community. That's the end of my statement. Now, before we come on to the questions themselves, I want nobody, please, talking across anybody else because they have an opinion about a question that is being asked. It is being asked in honesty by that person. You will see in front of me, I do not have a gavel to be able to bang. Unfortunately, with the incidents of last Monday, I broke it, which caused a lot of merriment amongst some councillors that were close by me. And I've got to get it repaired. So we'll stay with that. So I now open it up to the floor. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Sir, if you'd like to stand up, tell us who you are and give your question, and I'll pass you the microphone.
Thank you very much for all your reports and all the information you've given us this evening. Thank you for that. The question I have, well, one of the questions I have is the post-it notes that are on these walls here, which is great that you're asking us for our comments and our views and any ideas. What happens going forward with those comments? How will they be collated, and will we have any feedback on those or what's been progressed?
Over the past few weeks, Councillor Peter Schofield and myself have been arranging and organising meetings where we can update members of the community regarding unitary. And yes, over time, we have started to put these, which was Peter's initiative, to put these together. What will happen with them is that in a week or so's time, they will be taken down, they will all be logged, they will all be looked at, and like for like will be put together. And then those comments will come before a council meeting, and the council will look at them, and ultimately we will look at the, if you like, the overall opinions of the community to then put forward bids of interest. We can't say we want this, we want that. That's ultimately for others to decide. But we will lodge our requests for interest, and if they are granted, then they will come back to us, and we can then relay that to you, the community. So that is what will happen with them. They're not just pieces of paper with words on that will end up in a bin, I promise you that. They are there for a reason, and as a part of what Councillor Julie Tucker identified earlier, we need to be going forward with what Evesham community residents would like to see being undertaken by Evesham Town Council when unitary kicks in, rather than nothing happen, nothing be bid for, nothing comes to Evesham Town Council, and we are then directed by the new unitary as to what, when, how, etc. Okay, I'm going to ask Peter now if he would like to add anything, and I'll then ask you if you'd like to come back with any supplementary question.
Thank you. The reason why it's been passed to me is that we have a working group of 7 councillors. I happen to be the chair, so I'm the one who, I suppose, got his finger on the pulse the most. We consulted 22 or 23 councils around the country who are at different stages of going through or have gone through unitary authority. The reason why we are being proactive is that the overwhelming response was, if it's not statutory, within about 2, 3, 4 years or earlier, it tends to get passed down. And the problem being, it gets passed down because there's not enough money. So we would like to put our requests in now so that we know it's in the best condition it can be when we take it over, if we get a chance to take it over, rather than 3 or 4 or 5 years or 2 years when money hasn't been spent on it, it hasn't been maintained, and it's just going to be more cost effective in the long term. As the Mayor pointed out, we can ask for things. There's no guarantee they'll give them to us. We could ask for the car parks. We'll definitely not get those because they're revenue earners. It will be things that will cost money to maintain. So everything that we do ask for and get, there will be a cost implication. So that's the reason why we have these open meetings, so that people can say, no, we don't want toilets that are open. We don't want parks and open spaces. We don't want the library. The most expensive and contentious one is the leisure centre. We're unlikely to get it, and there are major cost implications for that. That's where we are, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Would you like to come back with any supplementary comments or questions, sir?
Thank you very much. The unitary stuff is very new to me. I hadn't heard of it before today. Is there somewhere where I can find out more information? Because it seems to be, I imagine a lot of the changes are for saving money from out of somebody's budget somewhere. And then I suppose all the things that fall out of that will fall back onto the town here for funding of their own. Secondly, are there any lessons learned? So you've been visiting various 23 other councils, I heard. Are there any lessons learned reports that have been published or pulled together, that actions that people can see that you've seen? Thank you.
Know about what is going on with Unitary. You could check the government website, or you could check Wychavon's website. They will have information on there. In terms of lessons learned, I think the big lesson learned is, as Peter was saying earlier, is that if you don't try and get it reasonably early, you will get it when it's not in such a good situation. It's been left to sort of deteriorate. So that is one thing that we do need to be very aware of. It also is likely to increase the need for staff for obvious reasons. Because if you've got more things you've got to deal with, you are likely to need more staff. And that is certainly, yes, in the town council. That has certainly been the case on other town councils where they've taken on different assets.
How do they get paid for?
Well, the way we normally have to pay for it through council tax, a precept. So, yes, it may, as you say, the main reason the government gave for changing this was economy. They also talked about devolution, which to some extent might happen later on when we eventually get a mayor. But in terms of the unitary, devolution doesn't really come into it. In terms of the unitaries, it's really about economy, and they think that it's going to save money. Well, the idea is for the local authorities, so the new unitary, they think it will be cheaper than having a district and a county council. That's the main motivation from what the government said in their initial plans. Yeah. So there you go.
Could I just make a few extra comments to Julie's? A lot of us, my wife, Julie, a lot of us on the committee have rung up other councils and other town clerks. And the response has been, to say varied, is an underestimation. Some councils, it hasn't made a bit of difference to, because they were quite independent from their hierarchy anyway. And other councils are in total disarray because they didn't make any preparations. They didn't look into the future and say, what are we going to do? And this is what Peter and the rest of us are trying to do, is to get our foot in the door, to know what we hope to take on and how we're going to manage it, and what our future aims will be with being our own. Because we will be like, if anybody here remembers the old, what was it called, the council, borough, the old borough council used to be, and it'll be in some way similar to that. We will be managing, the old borough council had the Crown Meadows and other things. We won't get the car. Anything that earns money for the district, we will not get. You can rest assured on that. But the things that we need for Evesham Town, that are important to Evesham Town, the library, the public toilets, as we mentioned, other things, we will go for those, or we think we will, and we'll make the best of it. But it's forward planning. It's forward planning. That's what we're doing, and everybody's making an effort and endeavouring to get it right, so that no matter what they aim at us, we'll be prepared. This area, we have been fortunate. Everybody can moan about some of the hierarchy councils and everything, but we are in a fortunate area. The Wychavon has been a very good district council. They've been a very good district council. So we're in a good position at the moment, but we don't know what the future's going to be. And anyway, I'll hand this back to Peter. He's chair.
Yes, I've looked at Bridgewater and Somerset. They went unitary in sort of stages. You may recall Somerset as a county was in dire straits a few years ago. I didn't look at it in detail because it's not Worcestershire. But Bridgewater's a little bit bigger than Evesham, with a population of about 40,000. They went from a staff as a town of about 7 to 67. And their town council rates went up by 4 times to cope with it. The toilets are very close to my metaphorical heart for various reasons. And there's an item on the radio today about public toilets. Apparently, we've lost 14% of our public toilets nationally in the last 10 years. And it's a threat to both males and females. There's a move actually to make them a statutory requirement on local councils, which I would support. But I'm not quite sure how you're going to do it, because situations vary so much. But if we don't take these on, and the new unitary could charge us for them anyway, Wychavon could do that at the moment. They're not statutory items, so any item that's provided for the town, Wychavon could actually charge. They don't, because they don't need to, but they do in some local authorities. So the fact we don't take them on won't mean to say we don't get charged for them.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel more comfortable sitting down. Are you happy for me to do that? Thank you. Primarily, the questions that I have are regarding finances and also the town hall, and these are issues which have been passed to me by parishioners who weren't able to come to the meeting. It's very interesting, the talk which has been made about the deterioration of buildings, which has led over successive centuries decades, of the Almonry Museum and also the Town Hall. With that in mind, I'm trying to amalgamate several questions into to dot them down. So firstly, with bearing that in mind, I'd like to thank Peter Sorry, thank you. I would like to, ADHD here diagnosed. I find it difficult to break off. To thank him for his tireless work on the town hall. It had been gone neglected, and that is not an assertion at any particular person. He had the time, the knowledge, and the inclination and the wish to get things was sort of that. However, as a councillor, I have grave concerns, and I'm putting forward the grave concerns of many parishioners. And that is that the publicised costs involved over what has been said there the next 10 years do approach, at the time, some £900,000. I believe there's been 51,000 spent already. As has been mentioned, we're looking at 80 to £100,000 for the windows. This hasn't been the creation of any councillor, I believe, who is sat here, but that work still needs to be done. On top of that, I think the 51,000 was the immediate work, so works you will see has already been done, the making safe of the windows. There is remedial works to stop, hopefully, further deterioration. Now, they have said that a new roof will be required within 5 to 10 years, and that's based on a report that was done 16 months ago. And that would depend upon the level of work which is done in the interim period. So the quicker it's done, assumably, or intermediates. Therefore, I was absolutely dismayed. The town council already own the freehold of this building. I'm not going to go into the legalities, but Wychavon essentially bought the lease from PJK Investments. And a vote was made. I wasn't at the meeting. Sadly, I was on a holiday. And have agreed to take on that financial burden. Now, much as it says it's been fully costed, from where? The rent from the Valkyrie down below, how can we possibly rely upon the income from anything in the hospitality business? I find that a reckless decision of this council, and maybe the people here disagree with me. Why on earth it has been said here that it was not the responsibility of this council to take care of many of those repairs? Therefore, whose responsibility was it? That is the first question. Was it PJK or was it the town council? If it was PJK, why are we budgeting for work for which we can force him to do, or certainly pay for, a man that is not short of a bob or two through the correct channels, okay, i.e. the civil courts? Secondly, if it is our responsibility, if it's not their responsibility, it would be Wychavon's responsibility. And I just feel that they are passing over to us an absolute money pit. Why are we not agreeing to so thankfully take over this lease of a building which requires almost £1 million worth of work without to do that work first? The reason being that the people who wanted to pose the question were not able to pose it. Well, I did say at the beginning that, so the questions were, where is the money coming from? You say it's fully funded. If you could please answer that. Where is the money coming from?
I'd love to see the town hall clock restored, and what is happening with the roundhouse. Apologies, perhaps not everyone can hear. I'm always told I talk too loud. I'd love to see the town hall clock restored, and what is happening with the roundhouse. That seems to me to be a very important building we have in the town, and should belong to us. It should belong to the town. Thank you.
With regards to the roundhouse, the latest I can tell you is that NatWest are paying for the full restoration, and I'm told that the scaffolding will be coming down about July, August time, and they will then be in a position to be either handing it to, donating to, or whatever, but we have not been consulted. There's no identification on that at the moment. So any rumours that you might hear that the town council are taking it over, you just have to take that. NatWest have not made a decision. They have not identified anybody, and they are currently not in negotiation with the town council offices, and I have had that from the town council staff. Okay, so I don't know about that. The town hall clock, that will come under the restoration of this building, and it will be a part of it.
The reason why the clock is not working is because when the winder went up a while back, to his horror and dismay, he realised that one of the beams that the striker and the other pieces are suspended from was snapped. This was because of water ingress. It wasn't safe for him to do anything else. So the plan is that's why we're putting in for a grant to Historic England, and that's going to be one of the first things. And rather than going with quite a heavy chain weight system, we're going to go with an electronic striker. The difference will be non-existent. You won't notice a difference, except hopefully the beams might be lasting a bit longer. Does that answer your question?
Sorry, just briefly to address the roundhouse. Although NatWest haven't been talking to the town council, they are in discussion with heritage organisations and with the district council. There are a lot of people that they're talking to. I think they haven't come down to the town council level yet, whether they will or not in the future, but there are people from the area and from related heritage organisations involved in the discussion. We will probably hear more from that as they approach the end of the works. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Zoe Stevens, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Civic Society. Oh, I've got to put glasses on there. At the recent AGM of the Evesham... Oh, sorry. At the recent AGM of the Civic Society, we were discussing the clock, and would donations for the repairs or the replacement of the clock be welcomed by the Town Council, as some of the members of the Evesham Civic Society said at our recent AGM that they will be willing to make donations.
Okay, thank you for that. And if you would like to keep in contact with the town clerk, then obviously your generosity will be discussed, and thank you very much for that. Do I see any further hands? Peter? Philip, beg your pardon. Was the first hand I saw. I have seen other hands.
Mayor, councillors, thank you for this evening. I'd just like to ask a question. There's a long walk between Jubilee, seating in the Jubilee Gardens by the Almonry, through to Cheltenham Road. And I would like to ask if we could have some benches installed for that length of the pit walk, for people that can have a rest if they need to, or people that are short of breath, there's somewhere to sit. That's all I would like to ask.
Philip, my short answer to that, without being flippant, is the notice boards are there with the post-it notes. If you want to put that onto one of them, then obviously it's another thing that comes under consideration for the council. It's not only about assets that are currently administered by the county council or Whithaven, but also things to the future, and things that happen that way. Okay, so it will be considered. Next hands, please. Gentleman, followed by the lady there. Followed by, there's a hand up there.
You next.
Thanks. Andy Mellor, I've got 2 points that I'd like answering, please. First one, I'm slightly confused now. If Whithaven Council have bought out a lease from a private company and they've paid that private company for that lease on buildings, somewhere in that lease should dictate what condition those buildings should be in before they purchase the lease, and whose right it is to make good the required repairs to those buildings. It's a normal leasehold. It's common sense. So for you, therefore, then, to take it from Whithaven, and Whithaven to say to you, right, you make good the repairs, there's something gone wrong in the chain somewhere. And my second point is this, Peter. On the last site you looked at for burials, you stated there that it wasn't suitable due to government restrictions. Would you like to expand in depth of what those government regulations are of why the site wasn't suitable, please?
Yes, the price was about right, so we started doing due diligence, and the first one that came up with biodiversity. This is a requirement of central government. We got the report. The lowest estimate was £250,000 and the highest was £380,000. This was to buy off-site credits, and that was after we'd set aside an acre, I believe, of the available land. And at that point, we had to stop. If it had been significantly less than that, very significantly less than that, then we would be going forward with it because it was a good piece of land for what we wanted it for.
Thanks. Considering that whole process must have taken, what, 2 to 3 weeks through February into early March? Because you had to make the decision again at the March meeting because you went back into closed session. So therefore, you got a consultant in, got a company in, you carried out the biodiversity, net loss, and then buying the credits net gain within 3 weeks. Surely then, you could do the same on the allotment site and get an answer to the stakeholders of the allotment and not leave them in limbo for 12 months. Surely the biodiversity being removed from the allotments and all the hedgerows is far greater than what it is on an old orchard. Quite understand where you're going there. And if you conducted that biodiversity, let me speak, Peter, before you. If you conducted that biodiversity check with a consultant within 3 weeks, you can do it now on the allotment within 3 weeks and put it all to bed.
Okay, I'm passing on to another councillor who is a grower.
Yeah, you'd have thought that, but that's not the way it works. Because it was Old Orchard, the biodiversity on that is considered fantastic. Sorry? I didn't do the check. No councillor did the check. It was a company, and you have to use the right organisation to. Yeah, ironically, there is no biodiversity loss considered that with that. Well, that's what we've been advised. Anyway, if I can also answer, if I can answer the one on the leases. The lease was assigned from the Riverside with all the other property that Wychavon have taken on, and we haven't seen the paperwork yet. It goes with the whole property of the Riverside. If you look at the Riverside on the land registry, and I've done that, it actually includes a huge number of different properties. I reckon it'll be about a couple of years before the actual land registry get to register it. But the lease is assigned. Wychavon didn't buy the lease. It went with the whole lot. And they're perfectly entitled to assign a lease. And it's fairly standard procedure. So Wychavon haven't bought the lease. They certainly are our tenants now. We had to agree to the assignment, and Wychavon, I presume, still have that liability. It is an interesting question of the liability at the moment, and it's something I have an interest as well. Okay.
Okay, sir. You have asked your question. You've had elements of response. If you still have questions to ask, I would ask you to put them to the town clerk, and then the relevant person or authority will be consulted over it, and a reply will be sent to you. The lady at the front there, please, Mark. And then there was somebody at the back. Okay.
Hello, my name's Kerry Wallace. I've been a resident of Evesham for over 30 years. Now, I've got a statement which I've been asked to submit in, but I've sort of summarised what I want to ask. Now, there's 2 points. First and foremost, I've been watching every single live stream, and it follows on from your statement. Now, on those live streams, you can see that, in particular, one lady in this room, and I have never met her, is actually, well, in my opinion, as a member of the public, treated diabolically. Other councillors should not be allowed at all, ever. And I'd like to know if all those that have actually done the things that they have to Emma would like to apologise to her, because I think it's disgusting. Having been subjected to things myself, which are in my statement. But the other thing I'd like to say, which follows on from the meeting last week, I've been in public toilets, and I know the first name of somebody who has actually got a legal case with you for a discriminatory case, legally. And I know that. So what are councillors doing talking in public toilets about private matters, legal matters, about an ex-councillor? Because I do not want one single penny of my money that I contribute via council tax and other means to be actually handed over in an out-of-court settlement. Let that go to a tribunal. If they deserve that money, they deserve it. And if they don't, they don't. But I actually believe that unless whether they're in closed meetings or not, if the councillors do not come together, respect one another, treat each other with dignity, with kindness, accept everybody's got different opinions and allow each other to speak. There should be no screaming, swearing and shouting. There should be no targeting at anybody at all. And as a member of the public, that doesn't, and I've watched every single one of those lives, and I'm really glad that you've done them, because you can actually see people laughing, and you can see that, my statement says a lot more, but I will give it to you, I won't go on. But are the people that are doing this going to be allowed to continue to behave in that way, whether it's a closed meeting or not? And can everybody actually, I've never met Emma, ever, but I'd like to say sorry to you for something that happened a few years ago, which I've disclosed in a statement, because I was asked to actually by an ex-councillor actually write on social media fake accounts. But I'd like to say sorry, because I am not that person. I would never, ever, ever. And I feel very, very strongly. I've flown back from Spain.
Okay, I respect the fact that you've made your comments, but the item is about specific questions from members of the public. It's not a debate or a time for statements. If you have statements to make, it is your prerogative to make those statements with any supporting documentary evidence. Pass it to the town clerk, who will discuss it with me in the remaining time of my of office, and we will then consider what is going to happen. Once council goes into confidential session, it is exactly that. And what is said within the confines of that room remains in that room. If anybody says anything outside of that room to any agency, even a member of the public or anybody else, they are in breach of the code of conduct and will be reported to the monitoring officer for disciplinary action accordingly. Regarding your comment or your question about a conversation that you have knowledge of or been given knowledge of in a public toilet, I have to say I've not heard anything, nothing's been brought to my attention, and I think it would be, if I ask fellow councillors, they may give me the same answer, they may know something about it. But again, if you have any supporting documentary evidence of it, dates, times, personnel, please pass them to the town clerk and they will be dealt with accordingly. Okay, the next question came from...
Seems a bit lightweight at the moment, this next point. One item, one question. One item, I would just like to compliment whoever is responsible for the plants and so on in Abbey Park. There's quite a bit of Evesham, especially as you come in up the Cheltenham Road, which is a bit of an eyesore. The park is just wonderful. So I just want to pass on my compliments to whoever manages that. The question I'd like to ask is, we've heard about litter and Laura's amazing efforts with the anti-litter. But can council look at targeting litter in some way, whether it's a poster campaign, love where you live or love your town or whatever, or more bins around? But Evesham does really have a litter problem. I'm one of the street pastors. We pick up bottles and cans by the ton. We don't pick up normal litter, but we come across bins which are overflowing, not that late into the evening. And I just really encourage council to do something about targeting litter at source. Thank you.
Thank you for that point. It might be of interest to people to know that Laura, you're absolutely right, and her team do a phenomenal job of litter picking around Evesham. In fact, with our drop-in session that we had on Saturday, she came in with her high-vis to sit down, having cleared hedges on Littleworth Road, Bewdley Street, Brickkiln Street, and they had recovered from the hedgerows 200 or thereabouts glasses from pubs. And if people, and this just underlines the discourtesy and the appalling behaviour, in my opinion, of people who think it's all right to take a pub's glass out of the pub, drink what's left in it, and just throw it in the hedge. It could be saying that they could be told that they're stealing from the pub. But that was just one example, so it totally supports what you're saying. Evesham has a litter problem, and with people like Laura around, it is not even touching the surface. But we are looking at ways, talking with her as to ways and means that we can help her, support her. Okay, and thank you for your question. Robert, you have something to say?
Yeah, I try and help and support Laura. We have Adopt a Street in Wychavon, but particularly appertains to Evesham. There's a lot of people in Evesham who adopt a street. I personally try and clear the litter between Bengeworth Church and Wickham Ford, which I'm supposed to do 2 or 3 times a year. I usually do it 2 or 3 times a week because I go that way 4 or 5 times a week. And I despair I can clear it in the morning and it's as bad again by evening. Though I rarely actually see the litter being dropped when I'm along there. There it's thrown out of cars. And that's in addition to the fly tipping that I get. I live on the Broadway Road. You may know the U-turn on the end of the dual carriageway. That's a perennial spot, as is the new entrance just below that as well. I've reported stuff there several times recently. It's partly to do with fly tipping as well as littering. It's people who are doing it, and a lot of it is Evesham people. How do we change it? I don't know. I think there is an argument for changing the design of and positioning of some of the litter bins. That's a Wychavon thing. Although if we want a new litter bin anywhere, that costs the town council money to have it, and we've got to service it being emptied. I don't know the answer. I go to Germany, and as I did last November to see my son, I didn't see a single item of litter all week. So how do we change the culture? Oh, 846, I know. Because I'm half a mile away from there. I get to see that regularly. Yeah. Laura, you have the answer.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't know Laura, and I'm not sure there is anybody who doesn't, this is our litter picking expert. And those who actually looked at the Christmas trees in St. Lawrence's Church last Christmas, Laura put a tree there with a very important message. They put the tree up and then went out and picked up litter and decorated the tree with it. And then somebody very cruelly said when she took it down, she went and threw the litter back outside. No, you didn't.
I'll go back so I'm less conspicuous. Just to give you an idea, this is what I've picked up this evening, walking from my car to here. So what is the answer? We've got takeaways, we've got stuff shoved in benches. I drove through town earlier and this was on the floor. So I'm asking all of you as town councillors to put pressure on Wychavon. I mean, they are responsible for the street cleaning. But it's not just litter. It's blocked drains, it's weeds, it's broken shop fronts, fly postering. There's so much. We're talking about spending all this money on the riverside, the town hall, the clock, the almonry, but we need to get the basics right first. We need a nice, clean town for visitors to look at our town and think, oh, isn't that lovely? We've got beautiful flower beds.
But often, what have we got in the flower beds? We've got drug syringes, we've got glass bottles, we've got glasses, we've got packets of crisps dating back to the 90s. You know, I can't do it all. And I do thank you guys for coming out and supporting us, but that was just once a year. We go out weekly and we are finding it on a weekly basis. And it is a tidal wave of litter. It's a big problem in this town. But thank you, you know, but please put the pressure on Wychavon and FCC and Continental Landscapes or Crinkles or whoever, whatever they're called, and also National Highways. I get really fobbed off by National Highways and they're responsible for the A46. But please keep the pressure up in your role as a councillor.
Thank you. Yes, we all acknowledge all the work that Laura has put in. I would say that the reason the anti-litter group exists in the first place came from Evesham Town Plan, the original town plan. And there was a committee then, and the sort of driving force behind that was a guy called Bruce Taylor, which Laura, I know, knows, as do I. And the anti-litter group had a basis of three things. Yes, litter picking, that was environment, but also to encourage more enforcement and education, because if we can, it's easier to reach young people first before they get into too many bad habits, unfortunately. And Wychavon did run an education programme for a while, but it would be good for that to continue, really, I think, to keep up the work, because it needs to be going on all of the time. In terms of Wychavon, I know that there is movement on getting the street cleaning back up to scratch, because over the last year to 18 months it hasn't been what most of us would expect, and certainly things like weeds, etc. But I do know that there is movement on that, and I'm hoping that we will all see that in the near future. But yes, I'm sure that we can keep up any pressure that we possibly, that we possibly can put onto getting things moving in the right direction.
Cheers. Oh, I'd like to speak, please, Mark.
I thought you were handing me the microphone. Go ahead.
Thanks, Laura, for all the work you do, and you've given me the litter picking bug. I do go out on my own. It helps clear my head. I actually really enjoy it. Put a podcast on and just go and do my bit. And the gent, is he still there? No. Oh, he actually reminded me about something that I half spoke with Craig about. If we can re-pick up about the fag butts and where we could try and find somewhere to dispose of those quite nicely, that would be great. And if there's anything that I can do as a county or town councillor, Laura, to help, just let me know.
Get to you eventually.
I think I just wanted to reinforce what Laura's saying, because this subject came up at a town council meeting last year, and it's lovely that Laura is, you know, doing what she's doing, and everybody, you know, gives her lots of praise, and that's great. And that happened last year. But I think the point that she made about can the town council actually be behind it and do something, I think is really important. And actually, this lady, this councillor, I don't know her name, sorry, councillor. I think those 3 points that you made, education, whatever the others were, the three, I think there needs to be a task force, and I think the town council need to focus on those 3 aspects. Go into the schools. So education.
So they do an educational programme, but they tend to just go in the first schools. They don't tend to go in the middle schools or the high schools.
Well, they're the people that are probably dropping litter. Yeah.
Little Warriors is funded by Witchaven.
Yeah.
She is trying, but she's covering Witchaven. She's not just covering Evesham.
Yeah. So I think you need to think of something specifically for Evesham. So it was education. What were the enforcement and yeah, I think those 3 things for a task force would be brilliant. So
I would just like to say, just following on from what Laura have said, my team and I went out this morning litter picking, and we took the new sucking up thing, whatever it's called, to get up the cigarette ends, which was great. But Laura, this afternoon, picked up rubbish, and we'd been out this morning. So obviously, by the time that I had gone back to work, the litter had been thrown again, which is really quite sad, because we spent a good hour and a half out this morning just doing the square and Bridge Street. So I think that everybody has got to be responsible, and, actually, if you see somebody throwing litter, actually, just saying to them, please pick it up, because we can't just do it all the time. Okay, thanks.
Do you need to answer that, or shall I just take this on to the next lady? Yeah, okay. There you go then, your turn.
Sorry, good evening everybody, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name's Louise Cuddington, and I'm the founder of the Neurokind Hub Community Interest Company here in Evesham. We are currently supported by Public Health, WCC, and we're working towards a partnership with West Mercia Police to establish a dedicated safe space in town. Our focus is early intervention, supporting individuals before they reach crisis point. This obviously reduces demand on the police, NHS services, PCNs and GPs, while also improving outcomes for residents. I'm here this evening in the capacity of someone who advocates for regulation, calm and safety. So I want to address something directly. The effectiveness of this council is not just measured by the decisions made, but by communication and how it is handled within the chambers. When communication becomes adversarial, when voices escalate, or when individuals feel unable to participate safely, effectiveness drops, progress slows, and outcomes suffer. Clear, regulated, and respectful communication is not optional. It's essential for good governance. So from my perspective, the environments that achieve the best outcomes are those where communication remains steady even under pressure. That is the standard that enables progress. Now, the work that we're developing through the Neurokind Hub depends on strong, cooperative and aligned relationships and partnerships. So my message is simple: maintain regulation, keep communication effective, and focus on outcomes, because that is how you serve a community, and that is how meaningful progress is made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The town clerk has been writing as you've been speaking, but if you would like to extend your comments to the town clerk, then obviously again, without reiterating it yet again, during my remaining time, I will have discussion with her, and we will make sure that this happens. I mean, the council is signed up now to the civility document and regulation, so all councillors should be abiding by that. All right, and it will be for us now to not only put that into operation, but listen to comments and people like yourself, and that is the purpose of the meeting. Now, I'm not pressuring anybody. Time is getting on, but are there any other questioners? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors, for putting this on today. And thank you, Kerry, for the cake and the coffee earlier, because it was lovely. And it was really nice to... thanks, Kerry. It was really nice to see all the community stands here as well. So I think... I mean, I wanted to say, because it's an annual meeting and I come to regular meetings, I do want to give praise to Julie Tucker. I think she's a fantastic councillor who really does a lot for the town. And she doesn't go on about it. There's not lots of selfies, but she's out there and she's doing a lot. And I know, and that's not to take away from what any of you do as councillors either, because I know a lot of you take time out, you know, and are making huge improvements in our town. However, I must point out something, and this is my game, this is what I do, communications. So, Evesham Town Council, you need to get into 2026. You need to start moving with the times, guys, because your communications is really lacking. So, the social media needs to be more. The website, it didn't even have the regeneration project listed on there as an event. There was nothing on there. There was no news. Now, I'm not trying to point fingers and say, you should be doing this. But as a community, if you don't give us this information, then narratives are going to go out there. And it's not a good look. We deserve as a community. We elected you guys. We deserve to have the communication from you all. And the website's there, it just needs managing. Now, if Evesham Town Council, the admin team, which I know is, overrun and does a lot with a very small team, if you need more staff to do that, then can you request for funding so that you can have someone help with the communications and the comms, basically, for the department? Because it is so key that we have this in this day and age, that you have this communication. A monthly news update from the town council. Now, I'm on the press release list, so I should be getting press releases from you guys when things happen. I rarely get them. I'm pretty sure Pershore Town Council, in fact, I know Pershore Town Council, I know Stolton Town Council and other parish councils do provide a monthly update. It doesn't have to be made fancy. It just has to be a monthly update so that we know what's going on in our town. And I'm sure Lisa and the Journal and myself would publish these for you and put that out there and share that community news. So it shouldn't cost, it's just time. But whether a councillor can dedicate that time to produce it, or you can gain staff. So but if that isn't out there, then these narratives come out, and that's something that is still ongoing for this town. And I wish it wasn't, because we know there's infighting. There's infighting in every council. Sometimes councillors get angry and bang and break the hammers or gavel or whatever it's called. But what's not okay is that happens in the chamber, right? And how you guys deal with it is how you guys deal with it. I'm not interested in how you deal with it. What I'm interested in is not seeing this spread all over social media like someone's dirty linen for the next 3 weeks with TikTok videos, live videos. It's just dragging our town and our reputation as a community through the mud. We're better than this. We're not that narrative, and I wish it would stop. So there's 2 questions: that if the comms could be updated, and if what is the process? Where is the progress in preventing this negative social media?
Thank you very much for that. It's outspoken as always. I was just going to say that we've heard a lot tonight, and unfortunately some of the people have left. But next year, in the first Thursday in May, are our elections, Evesham Town Council and Wychavon District Council. So it's nothing to do with the unitary, they're just straight, ordinary elections. And I'm not standing, so my seat's available. I've been doing this since 1999, so it's about time that I let other people have a go on it. So please spread the word. We would love to see some new faces and then new ambitions and new this and new that. It'd be lovely. Thank you very much.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, are there any more questions? Okay, just before I close, there's a couple of points that you might think, why didn't he say that in his annual report? It's because I want to make them individually, specifically now, so they're fresh in your mind as you leave. We have 3 working members of staff in the council office, Joe, Sarah and Kerry. Sometimes there's an ad hoc, if you like, or extra person can do a little bit here, a little bit there. They, for a long, long time now, have been a full-time member of staff short, and they are having to take on the work of a full-time person and spread it amongst themselves. And apart from Joe, they're not full-time themselves. They are working tirelessly. I can promise you that. In my year as the mayor, and even my time before that, I can guarantee you, when I have been into that office, there are mountains on their desks. And they are absolutely 3 incredible people, and I pay tribute to them openly now tonight. Joe, Sarah, Kerry, take a bow. Thank you very much. And finally, before you leave, for those who are not aware, the elections have taken place, and I can tell you, if those of you are not aware, that Deputy Mayor Bill Kimberley will become Mayor of Evesham on the 11th of May, and to my left, Councillor Peter Scurfield will become Deputy Mayor. I will retire to the back benches, as you might want to refer to it. And from the, as I say, from the 11th of May, they will be in the saddle and I'm going to have a rest. I thank everybody, members of the public, who have approached me in my year. This will be reiterated at the mayor making, but at this being this meeting, and those of you who have taken the time to come tonight, my thanks to you that have been in contact with me and have supported. There have been ups and downs, many, many of them. And I know Bill and Peter will do more than a good job, but I know what they're going into, and I wish them both very well to the future. Thank you for your time tonight. We will be around and about just for a short while. I'm conscious that it's 8:30. Some of you probably want to get out to the restaurant or get home. But if you want to stay and have a chat, look at what is, fill in some post-it notes, then please do so. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attendance.